Hello and welcome to Frankly Speaking, the show where we dig deep into the insights of some of the leading policymakers and business people in the Middle East and indeed the world. I'm Frank Kane. Today I'm delighted to be joined by His Excellency Dr. Nayef Al-Hajraf, Secretary General of the Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC. Earlier this week, he read the final communique at the GCC summit in Riyadh, the 42nd time that six-country organization has met to discuss the challenges facing the region. Dr. Al-Hajraf, welcome to Frankly Speaking.
Thank you, Frank, and I'm very delighted to be here today and looking forward.
It's a pleasure to have you, and thank you for your time. Dr. Al-Hajraf, the recent summit concluded with an announcement targeting a Gulf Economic Union by 2025. But tell me, frankly speaking, how likely is it that this can be achieved within that set timetable?
Well, frankly speaking, it is very challenging. I have to put it this way. You know how detailed this could be. The directions or the decisions made by the Supreme Council is very clear. It has been set as a deadline 2025. There is a lot of work ongoing. We are working into the Union Customs. We are working into the common market, and also the lifting the barriers that might be in between. Having said that, this will never stop us from approaching where we want to be in 2025. We are very much dedicated, and the direction is very clear, as I said. And there is a progress report that will be submitted on a regular basis, and finance minister, the GCC finance ministers are on top of that. And I know 2025 is around the corner. There is a lot of work need to be done for the next 4 years. And we have to emphasize that we are not starting from scratch. There is a huge work that's been conducted and completed actually over the last 20 years since the custom unions was announced in 2003. So there is very fundamental achievements, milestones that's been achieved over the last 15 years or so, and we need to continue hoping that the 2025 will be the date in which we will be announced the common integration market for the GCC.
Okay, so there is a foundation there, but what about the contentious issues that have derailed the negotiations in the past, like which country hosts the central bank and the goal of a common currency? Aren't these insuperable?
At the end of the day, the political will is there, the direction is very clear. You know how technical sometimes it gets when you go 3 or 4 levels down, and these are the technical people who are trying to make sure that whatever decision they will be reaching, it will have the consensus among the 6 countries, which is a very fundamental mechanism that was embedded from day one. So these are some kind of technical issues, and I'm sure once the political will is there, I don't feel worried about reaching the objectives, but I know that sometimes you need to go from A to B in order to reach C, and this is totally understandable as long as it's manageable.
One challenge surely is the variance in VAT rates between different GCC countries. In your view, will this be unified, and at what rate? Have you any idea?
Well, we know that it started by 5% for as an FTA or as an excess duties as well, excise tax. Some countries have implemented the 5%. Some countries are still not yet. And then the COVID-19 came, pandemic, and this changed the environments a little bit. Well, actually not a little bit. It has great significant impact on the economic front. And that was the reasons in which some countries have raised the VAT to 15%. That's in Saudi Arabia, for example, to 10% recently in the Kingdom of Bahrain, while in Oman and UAE, they maintain the 5%. In Qatar, they have the 5% for excise tax, but no VAT. And in Kuwait, they still work with the National Assembly to get the approval for both VAT and excise taxes. And I think within a time frame, this should be unified. And I think it started by 5%. And I think this will be discussed for the coming period. And we hope that we will reach the unified percentage.
Dr. Al-Hajraf, I speak to a lot of corporate executives here in the UAE, and they would very much like to raise the prospect, the possibility of a GCC business visa, which would enable non-GCC citizens to travel freely between member countries. What do you think of that idea?
It's a great idea. It is in our agenda. It has been discussed last year in several meetings, and we hope that soon we will conclude this. You know that this requires a lot of approvals from different governmental agencies within the 6 member states. And this is in our agenda. It has been discussed, and hopefully we will be able to conclude it, and then we'll announce it when it was finalized. But it's a great idea. I totally support that.
One proposal floated during the days of the late King Abdullah was to upgrade the GCC into a fully fledged economic union, similar, for example, to the European Union. Is that idea still current today?
Yes. Yes, and it was part of the 42nd Summit communique that was announced last Tuesday.
Right, so a fully fledged economic and political union?
Yes, that was the ambition that was introduced by the late King Abdullah. King Salman vision, which was adopted in 2015, is working within that dimensions, and we are fully dedicated to implement what was adopted by King Salman vision in 2015.
Right. Another proposal from the late King Abdullah was to include both Morocco and Jordan in the GCC. Has that idea been discarded? Can you just give me your thoughts on the possibility of further enlargement?
Well, Jordan and Morocco and the GCC are enjoying a very strategic relation that was adopted by the head of state. And if you look into the communique which was issued last Tuesday, there is a particular paragraph for Jordan as well as for Morocco. We have working groups in place to enhance the relation in different areas, in economic and health and transportations and in technology, advancing technology and so on. And we would like to see these working groups materialized in terms of some kind of outcome in which we will take it further after that. For the time being, this kind of strategic relation is very important for the GCC as well as for Jordan and Morocco, and we are intending to intensify this kind of relation because we strongly believe that we have a role to stabilize not only the region, but to be the voice of wisdoms across the Arab world as well.
The summit appeared to clearly side with Morocco on the issue of Western Sahara. Can you explain the basis of that position, and doesn't that risk upsetting Algeria?
No, we are adopting the UN resolution, and the UN resolutions was very clear in that, and we recognize the legitimate right for the Sahara, and this was our views and our beliefs from day one.
The summit also reiterated the long-standing GCC position of support for the Palestinian cause and the Palestinian claim to the occupied territories from '67. But tell me, frankly speaking, with 2 of the 6 GCC countries now normalizing ties with Israel under the Abraham Accords, does such a unified position by the GCC still carry any weight?
Absolutely. Even though there is 2 countries have signed a peace agreement with Israel according to Abraham Accord, which was sovereign decisions we respect very much. The two-state solutions is our view how to solve this long lasting conflict, a conflict that helps no one. I don't think the Palestinians, neither the Israelis, are benefiting from continuing the status quo. We have seen how the situation is accelerated last year, and we have seen casualties, innocent people from both sides, because there is no political will. The two-state solutions, which was adopted by the GCC member states as well as by the Arab League and the OIC countries, it was based on the late King Abdullah initiatives, which was introduced in 2002. Having said that, I think we are still waiting from the Israel side to reply on this two-state solutions. I know the U.S. administration's in favor for the two-state solutions. We strongly believe that the legitimate right for the Palestinian people to go back to their homeland, according to June 1967 borders, vital. We think that the East Jerusalem being their new capital is very important, and I think creating two states live next to each other in peace will have a huge impact on the peace and security and stability in the region. So this is where we stand collectively, and this is what we are calling for, and this is what we will continue based on the two-state solution initiative.
Moving on to defence policy, the summit agreed quite clearly that the GCC considers an attack on any of its members an attack on all. But as it stands, the Iranian-backed Houthis are still targeting civilian areas in Saudi Arabia, while Iran itself still occupies Emirati islands in the Gulf. What is the Council going to do about these obvious infringements?
Well, the Joint Defense Treaty is binding, and that's where it was stated on the summit that any attack on any member state will be considered an attack on all of us. And that's what happened in 1990 when the Iraq invaded Kuwait. And we have seen how the Desert Storm, Desert Shield witnessed the leading roles of the GCC and Saudi Arabia in particular to facilitate all the needed logistics to liberate Kuwait in 1991. The same goes on and on. We are condemning in a very strong word the attack that the Houthis is carrying against Saudi Arabia. This is totally not accepted, and it's violating the international law. And unfortunately, the Houthis, supported by Iran, is keep making the situation more complex. We think this will help no one, not the conflict, not the Yemeni people themselves. We have the GCC initiatives for the solutions in Yemen, and we think it's only through the political dialogue we will be able to reach a peaceful results in which the ceasefire will be in place according to the Saudi initiatives, which was introduced in March of 2021. Everyone welcomed that initiative except the Houthis. Once that's been reached, I think the political dialogue need to be reactivated. You know that all the parties have met in Kuwait and in Stockholm several times in 2016, but unfortunately, because the Houthis hardliner are not showing any flexibilities to reach these solutions, things are getting worse on the ground, and the Yemeni people, innocent people in the street, are paying the ultimate price, which is totally not accepted by us at the GCC, and it shouldn't be accepted by the international community who are watching what's going on in Yemen. We are supporting the UN envoy, a special envoy to Yemen. We are supporting the US, a special envoy to Yemen. We are supporting the role that Oman is playing to make some kind of breaking through. But we at the same time, we will keep stopping the aggressions that the Houthis are imposing as a threat to our collective security as the GCC. When it comes to the UAE islands, which was occupied by Iran, The GCC summit, the 42nd summit, have repeated where we stand, that it is only through dialogue, it's only through negotiation, or we should go to the International Court to resolve this issue. This is where we stand, and this is our positions, and this is what we are committed to continue doing.
It's also been suggested that the GCC needs to be present as a unified front at any negotiations with Iran. But has this idea been accepted by the United States and by the Europeans?
Well, there are different players. There are the 5+1, B5+1, and there is the Iranian side as well. Throughout the period that this subject has been on front, we have expressed our solid view that any discussions regarding the Iranian, not only nuclear programs, but their destabilizing behavior, their missiles capability, their interventions in other countries, their support for militias in different countries. This should be a one package. That the Vienna talks should not be limited to the resuming the JCPOA only, but it should take the whole package all at once. We have also expressed our demand to be there at the negotiation table because we strongly believe that the Iranian nuclear program will not affect Washington, which is 10,000 miles from the area. It will affect us, which we are only 100 miles from their nuclear capabilities or facilities. So if we looked into the North Korea program, a nuclear program, those who were sitting at the negotiation table were the neighboring countries. They were the North Korean, as well as South Korea, Russia, China, Japan, and the US. So it was accepted in 2007, 2008. Why it is not accepted today when it comes to addressing a threat that is very direct to our security, and this is something we will keep demanding. We will keep reminding our friends, our allies, that this should be a whole package. Having said that, if we were included in 2015 negotiation, in which we agreed, we welcomed the agreement that was reached by then. If we were included at that time, I don't think we will be in this situation today.
Okay, moving on to Lebanon, Dr. Al-Hajraf. The summit called upon the Lebanese state, the government, to stop Hezbollah from committing acts of terror, to enhance its army, and to confine arms to the hands of legitimate government forces. But doesn't this go contrary to the reality of Lebanese geopolitics? We all know that Lebanon has been hijacked by Hezbollah. How can it be possible to have these demands met?
Well, let me state it first that we don't have a problem with Lebanon. There is a problem in Lebanon. And the problem in Lebanon that affecting their relation with their neighboring countries who've been very supportive to the Lebanese people and Lebanon government all the time. You know that the Taif agreement actually was under the patronage of the Saudi Arabia, and it was the time when all the political parties, Lebanese political parties, get together in the Taif, and they reached the agreement, which was the key for stabilizing Lebanon after the civil war. Today, the Lebanese people have been affected by this political elite that haven't realized how deep the problems within Lebanon. Everyone else have seen this problem, but the political elite haven't seen it yet. So we don't want to intervene with the Lebanese domestic affairs. We respect that, but we are telling the Lebanese people that if you are not willing to help yourself, no one else can. And this is totally within the Lebanese people. We strongly support the Lebanese people. We strongly support a united Lebanon. We strongly believe that there should be one government leading the country, but with Hezbollah interventions, which was supported by Iran. And this is another example where this needs to be addressed as well in the international arena. Lebanon is an example, and Lebanon is such a beautiful country, and the Lebanese people are so creative, yet there is a huge problem with the political elite, and they need to address it themselves, and they need to start thinking how to help themselves first, and then seek the help from outside.
The day before the summit, the Egyptian Foreign Minister, Sameh Shoukry, was in Riyadh, and he held a joint press conference with you and with the Saudi Foreign Minister, Prince Faisal Al Farhan. What was going on there? Will we see more support from the Council towards Egypt, Cairo?
Well, the GCC and Egypt have enjoyed a very trusted, long-standing relation that is both sides are strongly believe that they have a duty to be the voice of wisdoms and to be the voice of the Arab world. Egypt is playing a very important role to stabilize the region. Egypt, at the heart of the Arab world, is have a historical role. And the GCC at the same time is also a stabilizer and is fulfilling its objective to stabilize and maintain the peace and security in the region. So getting together is just something we are doing it all the time. We need to see this relation is taking an institutionalized way. We need to have a framework in which we will be able to keep this kind of relation a very sustainable, professional way looking forward, because we strongly believe that we need to be engaged all the time, because the challenges facing us require this kind of engagement, and not only to maintain our own security and stability as Egypt and the GCC, but we strongly believe that this will have a great impact on the security and stability in the Middle East and the Arab world and beyond. And not to exclude Jordan from the equation, because we think GCC, Egypt, and Jordan are having this kind of duties. We are also working with the Iraqi government. Last September, we have also held the GCC foreign ministers and the Iraqi foreign ministers meeting. Also, last September, we have the GCC foreign ministers and the Yemen foreign ministers meetings. And this is all addressing issues that surrounding us, and it requires our collective effort to mitigate the consequences and to be prepared collectively to maintain the security and stability for our countries and for the region at large.
Final question, Dr. Al-Hajraf. How do you rate the progress towards reconciliation following the Al-Ula summit and the regional tour by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia? Are the problems and the difficulties, the rifts of the past behind the member states now, do you feel?
Well, I think it's totally behind us. Al-Ula summit is a new beginning. And I think the progress that's been made bilaterally, according to Al-Ula declarations from January 2021 until now, is very satisfying. I'm sure everyone expecting some hiccups here and there, but this is manageable. We strongly believe that the last Tuesday summit reflects the positive environments that include all the 6 member states, and I think this is where we're capitalizing for the future. This is very important milestones, and we are very satisfied that this has been behind us, and we are looking forward to move according to His Royal Highness the Crown Prince tour last week to the GCC member states, I think, followed by the summit last Tuesday. If you look into the whole pictures, I'm sure you will share the same positiveness as we are living now.
Dr. Al-Hajraf, thank you very much for your insightful responses. I'm very grateful for your time today on Frankly Speaking.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you for your team, and thank you very much for the opportunity.